such a strange and amusing place. One day you buy him rocket ship underpants, and then the next they're in outer space. Mama, don't you know you keep the whole world turning round?
Today we're speaking with Armin Brott, who is an author of a new book coming out called The Military Father. Welcome to MommyCast.
Great to be here.
What a great topic. I mean, so timely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind of wish it wasn't so timely.
Yeah.
But it's one of these things that really is happening. I get so many emails from soldiers who are in Afghanistan or Iraq or someplace where they can't tell me where they're from. And it's the saddest thing. It's like, my wife was pregnant when I left, and I'm going to miss the birth of the baby.
Yeah.
Or I've got a 2-year-old, and I'm not going to see my kid for a year.
Yeah.
What can I possibly do to stay involved? And it's really, it's a very important thing for these guys to have some sense.
Once upon a time, you know, all they could do was letters.
Right.
Right.
You know, now with technology, maybe there's a little bit more that we can do to keep the fathers in touch with.
Yeah, I
their
mean, this
family.
is, if you have to do it, this
Yeah.
is certainly the time to be doing it, because you can be texting each other, you can be emailing, you can actually send things. It's nice to actually have
I've seen where
physical
like
things.
they've had like Cisco setups where they can do video chats.
Absolutely,
even.
yeah.
I mean, that's really cool.
Yeah, and it really helps, but there's still something that's
There's a
missing. I mean,
disconnect,
you can watch your kid get ready for Halloween, and you can read your child a story, which is great, but you can't hug them. And
Yeah.
you can't smell their hair just after they got out of the
Yeah.
bathtub. You know, it's like, which is important.
Yeah, it is.
But, the reason why I was writing the book was to help guys to, first of all, prepare. What do you have to do before you leave to get some systems in place?
What do you have to do?
First of all, you got to figure out what's going on, and how you're going to be able to communicate is going to be so important.
Yeah.
Understanding there's a thing called the cycle of deployment, which is various stages that people kind of go through over the course of the months before, to understand that your wife may just flip out. And she may say, you are not going.
Yeah.
This is just not happening. And then she'll be angry. And then there's this odd thing that happens, but it happens to almost everybody. Just a couple of days to a week before they leave, just this pushing each other away,
Yeah.
which is kind of like, you know what, I want to get used to you being gone, so just go already.
Right.
Yeah.
They would never say that, and that's not what they mean.
Well, it's like
But
an
there is
instinctive
this-
thing, too.
Well, they're protecting
It's
themselves.
yourself.
exactly
They're starting to
protecting
wrap that
themselves.
wall around
Yeah,
themselves.
and then what's happening with the guys is that they've got more training exercises, they've got more meetings with their group, because they're getting used to the whole thing that they're going to be dealing with when they're over there.
Yeah.
And so
You
the
gotta
dads are
trust
kind of
them.
pushing away. The kids are feeling kind of freaked out,
Yeah.
depending on their ages. Teenagers kind of go through a similar thing to what the wives go
Yeah,
through,
right.
which is just
go
go away.
away.
I hate you. And also, depending on the age of the teenager, there can be a lot of very political stuff that goes on. They're often starting at about 12 or so. They're in this very black and white thing. And if they really approve of the mission that you're going on, assuming you can tell your family about it, they're okay. If they don't support the war, whether you're in it or not, they're just going to be totally
Right.
against the dad. And it's very
Right.
hard. And so understanding just the dynamics that can happen is so important. And then again, kind of getting used to coming up with a plan for how you're going to stay in touch. And then the hardest thing of all is a list. You got to go through the house and say, okay, honey, here's all the things that I did. I did the checkbook. I did the, you got to close the door a little bit. You have to slam it twice, otherwise it's not going to close. all
locking
these
the door
things
at
that
night, that's the
you
dad
never
job.
think about.
Yeah.
All these little jobs that everybody has. And
that's the hardest thing, really?
Transferring that over. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, because there's so much of it.
Oh.
There's so much. Nobody has any idea how much it is. I mean, just think about if you were to just leave completely for a year, you would really need to be telling your husband a lot of stuff
Right.
about the certain kinds of things, like the stuff that that he's never touched before.
Right.
And so you've got to get that information through. And so coming up with these big, long checklists, investigating your options, particularly if you've got guys who are in the reserves, their families have really never had much to do with other military families. They're coming in from other places.
Right.
So the family that's going to be left behind has to learn what sorts of services are available on base, how they plug into these services. They have to learn about the life insurance, how they're going to get medical care while the soldier is overseas. There's so much to do.
That is a lot.
And it can just be overwhelming to everybody.
The emotional part of it, though, I can't even imagine how you would counsel somebody to get ready for that emotional part of it, or how to deal with it when they're gone.
Well, I think the things that you listed, the process that happens before you go is extremely helpful, because if you can expect these things instead of worrying that, you know, if your wife is distancing herself before you leave, and you know that that's normal, and you've expected that that's going to happen, you're not going to leave worrying that your marriage is on the rocks while you're gone or something.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting difference between military people who go and civilian contractors. And the book, The Military Dad, is looking at the military, but also at civilian contractors who, there's almost as many of them overseas as soldiers, and they have far fewer supports. It's really unbelievable. With the military, they have seminars, they have various things that they can do to help guys get through. You can meet with a lawyer, to draft a will and powers of attorney and things like that. But the civilian guys, there's nothing. But to have some sense of, this is going to hit us, and how is this going to affect the entire family? It's not just the dad, it's going to affect the mom a ton.
Right. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And I would imagine that coming home presents a
Well,
whole
while they're
nother...
gone, like before you even get there, while they're gone, because my dad was military. My dad was deployed for like 15 months when I was like 13, and I mentally was old enough to understand that he didn't choose to leave me, but I felt abandoned, and I was angry.
Right.
So,
yeah, so there's a lot of stuff, and the guys have to understand this, and so do the moms who are staying at home have to understand that there's all sorts of stuff that's happening while you're gone. Kids' grades tend to go down, they miss their dads, there's all sorts of acting out things that can happen. But definitely to understand that there can be this sense of, you abandoned me. And there can also be, on the other side of it, there can be tremendous pride. That my dad is over there, he's defending the country.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
This has been it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
My pleasure.
We have to talk about it. For more about Armin and his new book, check out our website, mommycast.com.